Hello. Abruptly stopping the music. So, this is mad. I'm doing a video on In Bed With MeDinner, which, if you remember it, hopefully you do remember it. It was the 90s. It doesn't feel that long ago. Maybe I've watched it. Some kind people have uploaded it to YouTube over the years, and I've watched as much of it as I can possibly get hold of. It's one of those things where you would record it, but where are those tapes now? Who knows? It'd be great to have a full box set. I know there was a VHS, I think, at one point, which had some of the bits. So it must have been relatively popular. I seem to feel like I'm the only person who remembers it. But we're talking about Bob Mills's absolutely amazing In Bed With MeDinner. It was on always quite late at night. I was going to say, usually you go, oh, it's the precursor to something else. It has elements of things that are similar to other programs, but it's definitely not. You couldn't just say it was a facsimile of anything else before it or anything else after it, and not that it was the most unbelievably advanced technology or anything like that. It was just the personality of Bob Mills that made this show. The concept of it is something I love, which is and there was a lesser, not as funny, but there was a Rob Brydon director's commentary, which I kind of similar. I loved. I used to always love watching, mistakes on TV or clips from TV or Tarrant. Even Tarrant on TV was okay sometimes. But Clive James, I guess, would be the closest sort of feel to this that I would like. I like the idea of where things go wrong on TV. Not that all these clips are like cock ups, as Dennis Norden would have called them. They're not. They're just out of context and recontextualized by the sort of the creativity of sort of the storytelling of Bob Mills, and that's really what this is all about. It's a man in two different locations, but in one, mainly the one you think of him is in his flat. He's always in his flat. He's there's an Avengers intro, and then there's a few other things that he does, but essentially he's a romancer, as my dad would have called somebody like that in the pub. Somebody who tells you the story, and they've met all the people, a bit like the character in Phoenix Nights that Smug Roberts plays. Who's like, oh yeah, I've shagged this person, that person, but it's totally harmless. And there's always somebody like that in a pub, or there used to be when pubs were like community hubs that people went to. There was always somebody like, I remember there was a guy in our pub who told everybody they could get them cheap turkeys for Christmas, and everybody was waiting on Christmas Eve for these turkeys and hadn't bought them, and he just made it up. He was like, he had this special turkey person that he could get them from, and they would be massive and dead cheap, and they just he never turned up. It was just total bollocks. And the people, you can't really, like, if you don't get your turkey, you can be angry at them, but you don't really get angry at them because it's just kind of, I don't know, it's kind of unusual kind of creativity, and that's the Bob Mills character in this. It's like archive TV, so there's some funny things that are recontextualized. I'm going to go through my notes just so I don't miss anything as well. Everyone else had kind of gone to bed, so In Bed With MeDinner felt like what it was. I don't think I would be. I guess people who were older than me would have probably had a takeaway after the pub and watched this. This is perfect. This is before sitting on a couch fantasy football. So, and I guess it's kind of linked in with that lad culture thing, but I think this is a little bit smarter than that and ages better. And I don't think it serves it well. Maybe that's probably why it's not talked about that much. It's kind of put, like I'm like looking back, things like Loaded and stuff like that. But you kind of you watch that or you get those magazines and things as a teenager because you've hocked up on hormones and too scared to buy anything naughtier. But In Bed With MeDinner wasn't really that. Even though you would get Bob Mills on or Fighting Talk, which it kind of ties in a bit with that era as well. The sort of the glory days of Fighting Talk. So essentially, what was it? It felt like a bit like maybe like a pirate radio station, I guess. Surreal stories that Bob would tell, often about his Cleaner My Family, which is a kind of a joke to who's somebody who became quite famous in, or not famous, but successful in comedy production. My family more. His cleaner would leave things for him, and he'd do these tenuous, like, puns based on the things that he'd find in the dumbwaiter. There was some music performances on there which I totally forgot until I rewatched them, because I was so interested in what Bob was showing us. I love the video clips and him talking about the video clips. It'd be like a TV show that he'd made as well. Every clip would be something I quote unquote had made. And the audience talking directly to the audience like they're just friends in a pub, essentially just chatting to them. They're in his flat, and which you just bought straight away. There's a lot of lovely, relaxed storyteller style. I know a lot of people like Dave Allen, and I was probably too young to get him, and I've never really gone back to reinvestigate if I would like him now. But for me, Bob Mills is that kind of avuncular, likable, really witty, but not kind of showing off about it, but also silly. There's some silliness here. It's not like trying to be high art or anything. And I'm trying not to put it across like it's some sort of highfalutin thing, because it really isn't. So the title is a parody on something that probably people don't remember either. In Bed with Madonna was a documentary where she would, where it was behind the scenes of Madonna, and it was at the height of her being really scandalous. And this is the opposite of scandalous. And this is like having your Chinese takeaway in bed. So it is quite funny, like that play on that. It's not glamorous at all, but that was the height of glamour. It was her kind of, sexy Marilyn Monroe era, the sex book, and I know all this because my mate's mum was obsessed with her. That's another story. But what made the show special really was the tone, and it wasn't polished. It definitely wasn't like anything in America. I mean, I know there's the kind of surreal elements of Larry Sanders Show and Gary Shandling Show and things like that. So, but this isn't really that. It doesn't even feel scripted. It doesn't feel like a clip show. It doesn't feel like a parody or even a chat show. TV Burp, people mention alongside. TV Burp is obviously more structured and prime time, but there's some similarities there. But obviously, Harry Hill is one on his own, really. Remixing TV moments in a way that I suppose TV Burp did in a little bit of a way. So essentially, he has this stylized apartment. He's talking to the cameras like they're all pals who've just popped by, and the first couple of series were set up like the Prisoner, which is a TV show I didn't really know much about. It was set up like Number Six's apartment from The Prisoner, and then the second series, still in Bed With My Dinner, I think was an Avengers inspired, like the Avengers, the Emma Peel thing. Not sure if it's the new Avengers or the Avengers. I always get them mixed up. There's the one with Dinah Rigg, and then there's the one with Joanna Lumley. But anyway, I think it's probably the first one. And he's actually dressed up, and he has like the female wig on in the thing, and he gets to the car and everyone laughs because I think he's driving as well. So it instantly lets you know it's not to take it too serious. So there's these big fake narratives around him. So what have we got? Like really surreal storytelling. People say like laddish stand up. I don't know. Maybe I need to. I've never watched it. I'll probably watch it every year if I'm honest. I maybe I'm old, but I don't find anything because laddish is seen as like a byword for like out of time, overly sexist, and all that kind of stuff. And I didn't really notice that. I guess the only thing I noticed, I remember he was talking about the Spice Girls or whatever, and I was thinking you probably on TV. You wouldn't be talking about like bodies as openly as that, like people's bodies and stuff like that. I don't know, but I mean, it's of its time and it's still funny and it's completely harmless. So the Casualty Location Man, where the other bits I loved as well, where he'd make up stories as he was just walking around the area, which always reminded me of what I would do with my friends. We'd find us something in the street and kind of talk about the thing we found, or like an old car or some rubbish that was found, or something on top of a lamppost, or one tiny glove or something. And he'd just tell this story, and that's sometimes how the Casualty Location Man thing came out, like how accidents would happen, and he'd kind of spell them out. The joke being that in Casualty they had to keep getting more and more wild ideas for accidents as the episodes went on, because they run out of things for people to get injured in a way that was creative or new. Bizarre celebrity anecdotes, mostly about him being irresistible to female celebrities. Fake TV producer memories, where he would talk, show you the clips and then give you the full context of the clip, which is just great. And I know sometimes some of the things did not go well in the room. Like you got people like just sort of a confused response or absolutely guffawing, and things like that, I guess now don't get to make two series, and that's a real shame. There's not a lot of like just a very specific voice that isn't sort of sort of grouped or discussed or edited into like what they think is perfection, rather than just letting it be. The strange hard men as well. Like he had a thing sort of like tough guys. So I imagine this is just before the Danny Dyer stuff of like London's hardest bastards or whatever. But like he would also make some of the clips into mock documentaries and talk about people and make up people's names and make up characters for them. It was he would treat it dead serious as well, really deadpan. And I'll talk a bit about what other things I like about Bob Mills as well later on. But this is him. It's all just out of his head. And by the way, to go back to the thing where he's walking around the streets, and you'd get real uproarious laughing from that. People would absolutely just blow. There'd be, you could hear the audience like in the background, and I like those as well. It's just the creativity of someone. Maybe if you've had a pint or two and you're just kind of making your way home, it's the sort of flights of fancy you'd have, and I love that sort of thing. That's exactly my kind of thing. I just love that. So it wasn't necessarily something people. Once you watched a couple of episodes, it was, but it wasn't something that was like people appointment TV or discussed very much or anything. But it definitely had like a bit of transgressive appeal to it. Like a lot of the things that I like have that. When you feel like you shouldn't be watching it, or they're saying things they shouldn't be doing, or you're seeing something you shouldn't be seeing. There's a little bit of that, not as much as like say a Ghost Watch or things like that, where it's like TV going wrong and you feel, oh wow, what's going on here? It's not that, but it just feels a bit naughty. It just feels a bit like, but not naughty like whoo, like Carry On, but more naughty in a kind of older brother showing you stuff you shouldn't be seeing yet kind of feel. I don't know, maybe that's right. So he was quite cynical about some things, but nostalgic about others. Affectionate about a lot of the things. He was never mean, I don't think, about anybody. And it was the regional stuff that was quite funny as well, because he's clearly like a Londoner. I don't know the different varieties of Londoners, but he is one of those. And he was obsessed with like personalities and regional TVs, old documentaries, celebrities who maybe didn't become celebrities, or people who were set up to be a celebrity and didn't quite make it, and he'd explain why, and he'd just make this weird mythology about it. I'd love to see I'd love for him to have made a movie out of some of these characters. It would be great. I guess now these are the sort of weird clips you might see on TikTok, I don't know, or so bad it's good sort of stuff, like they do on Red Letter Media with the best of the worst. I absolutely love that. I love watching things like that, really, where someone's really made an effort to make something good, and it has some humour to it, but you're not laughing at them. You're admiring the fact they made it, but it is objectively hilarious and not made to be bad, not bad, but just like good bad. Yeah. So this, I believe, it ran from 92 to 99. Not a lot in each series. I forgot. I remember now. I read about it earlier on, and I went back and looked. I remember now that the Buzzcocks were on it at one point, playing. Not never mind the actual band. Ever fallen in love with a girl you shouldn't have fallen in love with, Manchester. And then series 2 were longer episodes. There was a couple more sketches in there and a couple of celebrity guests, and I don't know if I've seen as many of those, because on YouTube last time I checked, series 1 is easy to find. But the stories would be longer and a little bit more depth to them. I remember Nick Haywood playing on there as well. Series 3 and 4, there were. This is like the American documentaries were in there as well. And I guess in a lot of ways, it's like, I was just thinking, do you ever watch The Soup or Talk Soup? because we had cable, and for a while we had access to E Channel, and it had John Henson. He had like a little white bit of grey hair at the side and black hair, and he did like made fun of chat shows and things like that, and clips that they had on the E network. And he was amazing. John Henson, so funny. They rebooted it with Joel McHale from The Amazing Community. They called it The Soup later on, not just Talk Soup. And I think Aisha Henson, who went on to be in Archer, and she is also did it as well. And that's kind of the closest thing really to In Bed With My Dinner. I used to love all that. Um, Hard Men was still a big feature in the later series. Survivalists, lifestyle clips, he'd do fake voiceovers and reinterpretations. And that later era was what we would call Still in Bed With Me Dinner, which is such a Bob Mills thing to do, which is to take something that kind of makes a bit of sense, in bed with me dinner, even though, it's not like he sat in bed eating his dinner, so it's not literal, but it takes something glamorous and a title that you might be aware of and makes it silly. But then he extends that even further. Like, there's no documentary called, Still in Bed with Madonna. But it works. Now himself, like his stand up and the bits of stand up that I've seen, and he's still just no, they're still doing stand up in 2026 and headlining bills with other comedians, and yeah, still doing stand up, which I'd love to see. I'd love to go and see Bob Mills. I'm gonna find out if there's things that I imagine they'll all be down south, but anyway, I'll have a look. So his style, from what I've seen, is a little bit more confrontational when he's doing stand up. I guess you have to be, and a little bit. He's obviously, I think he was a Palace fan. I'm pretty sure he's a Palace fan. Again, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure he's a Palace fan. So talk a bit about that, a little bit more beer and football kind of related stuff, and also on like when he'd talk on Radio 5, the thing I mentioned earlier on that's gone completely blank. Not Talks. I think he wanted to say Talk Sport, but what the hell was it called? I said it earlier on, didn't I? Jeez, I'm gonna have to look through my notes. When Colin Murray was presenting it, oh my word, I was doing so well remembering everything, and now I'm gonna have to go right back through my notes and see if talking balls. No, not talking balls. Often they did talk balls, but it wasn't. What was he in? Jeez. Right, you're shouting it at me because I said it earlier on and my mind's gone completely blank. And I used to watch it. Colin Murray was up and presented it at one point. Danny Baker, I think. Anyway, I'll come back to that. But that kind of football and beer era is, kind of, I think maybe what he's linked to, which I think is unfair, really. It's overlooked and underappreciated, definitely. Definitely, I don't know if we could say ahead of its time, but if we're talking about the soup and things like that being popular later on, this was a much more creative way of doing that, and a lot earlier. So let's go through. Yeah, so pop culture, just nonsense, not pop culture, the zeitgeist as much, but sometimes you'd throw like a famous band or person into an anecdote that just was like, it made no sense, Like if it was now, he'd be like, oh, I was just down the pub with, Ariana Grande or whatever. And he just ranting as well. So apparently he did a lot of different things like valet, parking, dry cleaning, and delivery driving. So he'll got all these stories. It's a bit like Peter Kay, isn't it? Was Peter Kay isn't really funny now that he's detached from normality. I guess we could say that for a lot of comedians. Really, some of them are just not they lose their edge. So was comedian from the 80s onwards. There was a show that he did that was called, I think it's called The Show. Now, I only remember this vaguely, where it was like a behind the scenes documentary about making a chat show, which I think is where Bob Mills really goes, where it's very clear that he's influenced by Gary Shandling. I think, not Bruce Chandling, the character. By look that up, he's hilarious, by the way. But yeah, it's probably around that. It was like reality satire before reality was it hit the peak. Again, that probably was a bit before its time. The other one was the quiz show, Win, Lose or Draw, and the difference between Shane Ritchie presenting it and Bob Mills presenting it was all the stuff that's happening behind the set, which again is like a room, and he's got like a flip chart, and they have to draw. It's like charades, really, but the sort of the world that he built around that. He was so good. A ITV mainstream presenter, which is bonkers, really. So you got this daytime friendly Bob, but he was still edgy and still funny and still very confident. I just love the confidence of somebody just like spinning a yarn and not looking rushed in the slightest while making a quiz show. Not like a sort of Bob Monkhouse where he's like got his script and he's got his jokes and it's like he still felt very relaxed. I believe he was on Talksport. Don't listen to Talksport. Don't know anything about Talksport. Um, so what can we say is the historic value of other than me thinking it was funny and it was good. It was good. Is clip culture, ironic nostalgia before everything became super meta in the mid 2000s, and now like meta is kind of almost embarrassing. Reaction comedy, in a way, not live reaction comedy, remixing things, humor. Look at this weird clip, kind of internet style thing, and it does. I guess it does sit with the YouTube commentary. It does sit with these things. TikTok clip culture that I know of. I don't really engage with my TikTok that much. I find it a bit too overwhelming. The same with Instagram, really. It's the scrolling thing. It just keeps my eyes like Alex from Clockwork Orange. Nostalgia. He had nostalgia for the things he was discussing about. What I like about it was the world of it, the atmosphere, the mystery, the actual curation of the stuff that he was watching. It wasn't just like ad hoc, like mine is right now. And I guess it's a forgotten era. There was definitely, I mean, Williams and Lucas did Mash and Peas, which was quite late on ITV as well. Richard Bacon did a show later on more early in the 2000s. It was like Beer and Pizza Club or something like that. And it's kind of difficult as it is to like him, I think he had some people on there who were quite fun as well, who kind of put up with his partridge isms. Maybe some of the elements of Eurotrash are kind of in there, except you maybe if you got caught watching In Bed With My Dinner by your parents, it's not as bad as getting caught watching Eurotrash. Network 7 I looked up, but I couldn't quite work out what that was. The word always felt a bit sleazy and a bit exploitative and sometimes a bit mean for me, even though there was some really good stuff on there. I think, man, maybe Sally Christian on there as well. Like, it was a bit grating at times. Um, Maybe just because I'm a Manc or South Manc, that kind of proper Manc thing. I just was surrounded by it when during the Oasis era, where everybody suddenly decided that they were a lot more, who is and who isn't kind of Oasis accented than they really were. Um, so I guess now things are risk managed more, and this wouldn't make it to where it was a little bit all over the place, very personality centered on him, who wasn't like a mega star, so why make it? Um, and yeah, I loved it. I absolutely loved it, and it's worth rewatching. You can find In Bed With My Dinner on YouTube. People occasionally people make videos on it and talk about how much they like it. I haven't watched it yet, but it's in my watch list. As I was going through my list, I've got a Due South video that I wanted to discuss, and this, and a few others. And I saw that John Rain had made one. I really do like Explodo Book. I have Explodo Book, and I have the listen to Smersh Pod, and I have the Bond book, and he's great. So I'll have to watch what he says about In Bed With My Dinner. I'm sure he's not slagging it off. I'm sure he likes it too. Games World, I didn't have Sky at that point, so I don't know what Ben Muzz was like on Games World. But this is a little period of time that maybe people don't talk about very much, and it's quite fun to talk about it with you. So if you've enjoyed this video and you like you think of something else that I can check out that maybe I haven't seen that's similar to this that you want me to discuss with you, then let me know. I really do enjoy just kind of having that little bit of fun nostalgia. I know that there's a kind of element sometimes of nostalgia that can be a bit sad, but sometimes like sad, I don't mean like sad like on Partridge. I mean sad in the way like the good old days and what have you. But sometimes some things stand the test of time. They're still funny, and it's worth going back and watching them. And this is one of those. Um, I don't know. I've not seen him on many panel shows. I don't listen to a lot of radio. Fighting Talk. There we go. That was it. Fighting Talk. He was on there quite a lot, and some of the stories he would have to tell were really funny. I've heard that Bob Mills has struggled with alcohol and depression, mental health, and kind of ups and downs of his career. Um, and I think being open about that, if he has been, and I've read a couple of articles and a few behind paywalls that I've not paid for. Thank you, The Telegraph. Um, you know, I feel like people will start rediscovering this, and Bob Mills will be embraced by sort of modern comedians, and they'll go, "Oh man, that guy was quite surreal, and he doesn't look like he should be surreal." And I think that's important. Like, not every surrealist comedian needs to look like Noel Fielding or be kind of wafting around. Like sometimes they paint pictures with their words and you create those visuals. You don't need someone to tell you that they're wacky with the way that they look and dress. Um, and sometimes that hides horrible things as well. Looking at you, Russell Brand, and your manufactured whimsy, which to be fair, I bought one of his books and I used to watch him on MTV and all that. And like looking back, I can't hardly crack a smile. And I don't think that's just the context of modern stuff. I just think he wasn't as funny as the cult of him was. Whereas with Bob Mills, you have to pay attention and listen, and there's no bells and whistles. It's all comedy of the surreal and mind, and not. I'm sure he wouldn't go out and you can work out how intelligent he is. He's not going to tell you. He's just going to show you. And I think that's something really special about it. Plus, regional television as well is something to rediscover because it really isn't a thing now, is it? So that was my late night comedy secret. Hopefully, like I say, this is something that you can go, oh yeah, I remember that. And if you haven't, you can go, oh, I'll go and check it out. I can't believe they're free on YouTube, like a lot of things. I'll also recommend, I think it's Michael Cummings, who did Oxide Ghost's show for Brass Eye, was the director of Brass Eye, and a lot of funny stuff from around that time, including Down the Line. He's got some great stuff on the Oxide Ghost channel at the moment. You can watch behind the scenes of Down the Line, which I want to do a video about at some point. If you ever watched Down the Line, shut it! If you ever listened to watched Bellamy's People listen to Down the Line is just amazing. 5 series of that. What is point? I say what is point so much. Does anybody remember Down the Line? Anyway, this isn't a Down the Line video, but just telling you a couple of other channels to check out. And for those fun nostalgia periods, things that feel like I shouldn't be having nostalgia about them, because really I should only be having nostalgia about the old days, i.e. 70s and 80s. 90s, 2000s does not feel like the old days. I don't know. I guess it is. I guess I'm old. I guess this is growing up. Okay. Thank you. This has been a lot of fun. It's so easy to talk about things you like, isn't it? I could just be like algorithm chasing, but who's algorithm chasing doing a video on In Bed With MeDinner? It's not happening, is it? And sometimes things that I think nobody's going to watch, people watch. So maybe this will be one of those videos. Or maybe it'll get about 10 views, and that's fine as long as those 10 people are awesome. And I'm sure if you are one of those 10 people, thank you. You are very much appreciated. Enjoy the rest of your day, evening, night, morning, and let's be careful out there. See you later.